There were a lot of shops that were completely burned, like only the bricks were left. Seeing them being destroyed and vandalized was just very heartbreaking. I just felt like I needed to do something.
The protests across the US have become like huge news, like internationally. So could you share with us how has the situation been in Minneapolis last week, and what is the public sentiment there?
As I'm speaking right now, we are actually on a curfew lockdown right now, which goes into effect at 8 o'clock. It's now 9:30 at night. It's been very overwhelming for a lot of people, I think, because this is like the second big news about a Black person who was not armed and was not doing anything harmful that was just killed in broad daylight. And so people were just really tired and frustrated and hurt. And so they're taking it to the streets to protest. And so I think throughout the week, I think on the second night was when it started getting a little more violent. There were more instigators damaging property and more police that were sent to control the crowd. A lot of people are kind of divided too, because some people are criticizing protesters for damaging property when in fact I believe that the majority of them are doing peaceful protests, and there are a small few people who are causing damage and taking advantage of this smokescreen of having big crowds and taking advantage for their own selfish reasons. Minneapolis is obviously not my hometown where I grew up, but then it was a beautiful city and I really loved this area so much. And so for me to see this social unrest and just people destroying things here and there, seeing them being destroyed and vandalized was just very heartbreaking. There were a lot of shops that were completely burned, like buildings that were just like the insides were just completely burned. I just felt like I needed to do something. This is the least I could do for the community, to rebuild the community and also to get a real experience of what is going on, because it's so different when you just see it from the news and pictures and on social media. But when you're actually at the location and at the site, you feel a lot more sense of reality. And it really gave me a picture of the community is not bad. There are a lot of good people out here that love the city and are already trying to rebuild it, but at the same time, they also have a strong passion for what people are fighting for here. This is actually the second day that we are having a curfew, second night that we had a curfew, and things have actually gotten better. I think on the first day, on Saturday, when I was volunteering, there were still a lot of firemen trying to put out fires, and there was still smoke coming out of certain buildings. But today it was a lot better.
For those who are watching the news about this internationally and from Malaysia, I think it's a bit difficult for us to kind of just understand the entire topic about what's going on. How do you make them understand about this issue in a way which is kind of like more universal?
A lot of the mainstream media, they're using the photos, they're using the stories they're covering are all about, things being destroyed, looting being destroyed, the riots, and like almost like a civil war going on, which, it's partially true, yes. But what they're covering and the pictures they're using are probably the worst of the worst. What people don't see is during the day, there's so much peaceful protesting. Majority of the people protesting are peaceful and chanting. And when I'm explaining it to people from Malaysia, I would have to explain the whole context of it, that it's not just right now. this Black Lives Matter movement hasn't just started right now. It's been around for decades. It started from back in the American history when Black people were slaves, and then they fought for their own freedom, legal freedom. So they did manage to get legal equality and freedom, but the thing is that there's still a lot of racial profiling that happens. There's still white supremacy that happens, and racial inequality in the social setting. It's been going on so many years, and there's been so many similar cases to this, where if they weren't protesting, this police officer would probably not be arrested. And so I think it might be harder for people back home in Malaysia to understand, but then I think I would tell them to just be wary of certain assumptions and mental models that they might already have that are more applicable to Malaysia rather than in the United States.